All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining. We are sort of rolling into part two of our new employee onboarding. So this is, as much as I love part one and the partnership, because that is kind of where my heart is, these training segments, I think, are by far the most purposeful part of the training program. So today we get to talk a little bit about technical assistance requests, the teamwork project management sort of software that our engineering team does, and then we're going to have this really great panel. So I am going to kick it off to our engineering leads. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. I will monitor the chat. I'm sure you're going to have lots of those. So please, please, please ask whatever's on your mind. This is really informal. And although we aren't going to require you to come on camera yet, if you are able, especially during the panel, it'll make the panel so much more enjoyable if folks could turn their cameras on and mics on. So I'm giving you a little bit of warning ahead of time that I would love to see your beautiful faces, especially when we do the panel. But we have a couple presentations before that. So I'm going to kick it over to Star and Rachel. And yeah, I will be around if you guys need anything. So thank you guys for being here.
Good morning. I'm Rachel Smith. I'm the section chief for engineering services. Forgive me, I'm a little froggy this morning. I'm not sick. I'm not really sure what's going on, but anyway, I just wanted to start off by, giving some quick introductions and sort of a layout of how our engineering team works. I have with me on the line one of our team leads, and you can see we're broken up into a West team lead and an East team lead. Star Silvis is our West team lead, and she is with us today. Unfortunately, Chris Love had planned leave today, so he's not able to join us. So he's our East team lead. And then with those team leads, we have some really great support through our engineering staff that we all collaborate and work together. From our West team joining us today, we have Matthew Behrens, who's joined us back in February. So he's one of our newer engineers. D'Amico Guy is he's engineer one. So he's sort of an entry level. He started with the division, I guess, 2 years ago. Taryn Hendrickson is one of our technicians that is also on the West team. And Levi Preston, another one of our engineers that's on the West team. Sam couldn't be here today. He is also on vacation this week. So he wanted to give everyone his best as well. And then we also have Sam Bingham, who's one of our retired NRCS engineers that assists us in a lot of different ways. So on our East team today, we have, like I said, Chris is not available. Robert Moore is with us. And I think Corey Higgs is also with us. I'm not sure that Vivian could join us today. So we appreciate them hopping on. But basically, when we get work, we determine it's split more or less geographically, but there is some overlap. Sometimes a East engineer works in the West and vice versa. So just so you understand that, and we assign projects not necessarily by the county that they generally work in, but based on workload. So this is, just kind of how we associate our work. Now, with that said, we do have a position we're working on right now that's vacant. We had an engineer that was associated with our AgRap program, and we're trying to work on getting that position as our pond specialist, because we've got some really exciting and interesting projects that are coming into the works for some flood control type things. And so we really need somebody that's their exclusive kind of their area of expertise. And then in addition to that, we also have some time limited positions in the West that are for Helene recovery, 2 engineering positions and an engineer specialist. So overall about 15 of us, and we just have a really great group. So one of the things that I think you guys have probably heard about is requesting technical assistance from our engineering staff, and Star is going to walk you through that process so that you can better understand what that looks like. So hand off to you, Star. You're muted.
Yeah, so if you need technical assistance, and there's a bunch of different ways that you might need technical assistance, it doesn't necessarily have to be a project that you have cost share on already. If you need assistance from the engineering staff, and you would like a site visit, if you probably all know how to get into the website by now, this is it here. And if you go into for soil and water conservation districts, on this site, this is where you can request division technical assistance. And what we do, this is the form site request form. And we go through these, when you submit them, we go through them every Monday and assign them to an engineer who, like Rachel was saying, has the capacity to get to it pretty quickly. We do try to assign it to the person that you request. That doesn't always work out, but we do try to do that. Um, if you look up here at the top on this technical assistance request form, this is a prioritization of workload. So we try to go. Let me know if this opens, because sometimes with screen share it doesn't. Can you see the no, probably not. Hold on.
It went into a different screen, Star.
Yeah, that's so you can go in and take a look at this. You can probably see the Excel spreadsheet now. So these are the priority ones, are the ones that we're going to make sure that we get out to really quickly. These are the ones that are cost shared. So you can see up here at the top, the soil and water conservation programs. And Brandy was talking earlier about the different programs, the Ag Wrap, the Ag Cost Share, and the CCAP. So those are the ones we try to get out to quickly. A lot of times we'll come out and take a look at the site for you and see if there's maybe a problem that needs to be addressed that we might be able to address with a non-engineering solution first, because those tend to be able to be implemented more quickly. If it's, federal program, these priority twos, we might take a little bit longer to get out there, because we are trying to get these cost share programs have a limited time frame. So we want to make sure we try and get to them pretty quickly. We also, if you just need some advice, we'll try and get out there as well, but that's going to take a little bit longer sometimes. Let me get back to the form site. So when you go into this form site, you can go into that prioritization matrix. It's a lot of information. You can also just fill this out and we'll get in touch with you. We try and enter them in within 14 days of them getting sent to us. And then that engineer that it's assigned to will reach out to you and try and set up a site visit. It's really important when you go in and fill these out that you get the owner and the site address. So a lot of times it will be people will put in the address of the property owner, but not the site address. And we do try and go through, before we come out, we do a desktop assessment where we look at aerial pictures, we look at where streams might be on the property. So we try and familiarize ourselves with the site before we get out there. So it is really important that you actually give us the site address and the site coordinates so that we can do that and have the best information possible before we come out there. Directions, oftentimes you'll give it from your office, and that's totally fine. And you might not know what practice is needed. There's a long list of possible practices. Put the one down that you think fits the most, and if it's not what we think the practice should be, that's fine. Just get it as close as you can, and then when we get out there, we can talk about it some more. And then here, the TA assistance needed. You can go through a lot of times, especially when you're new. putting together a cost estimate can be really challenging. So sometimes you want us to come out and give you an idea what that cost would be for the practice, and we're happy to do that. So just, figure out where you think the TA assistants, what tasks you think need to be done. Um, and do try and fill this out as quickly as possible. And as completely as possible. I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. I see, I don't actually fill out the TA requests. So I read through them and we enter them into teamwork, which we'll get into in a second, but I've never actually filled one out. Yeah, a lot of times you won't have a contract number already. So if you notice, it doesn't have this little red asterisk here. So that's not absolutely required. You don't have to fill that out if it doesn't have a contract number. Any of these with the red asterisk is information that you do need to fill in here to the best of your ability. We do ask for a map of the site, probably from your conservation plan for the site, and that's really helpful for us. And try and show us where you think you want the practice. Yeah, so that, and then when you hit submit, it goes into the form site website that we then go in and check, and we enter it into teamwork at that point. So let me, how long do we have, Brandy?
I think it was about 20 minutes total for this section.
For just the form,
Or
I think
let me double.
Yeah, we did. We kind of broke it out in 10 minutes or so for this, and then from there into the teamwork. I feel like was there further you need to do on that? Because I feel like that.
No.
Okay, I think you're probably right about on time.
Oh,
Okay,
yes,
great.
yeah, you're right. Thank you, Rachel.
Let me pull up the teamwork site. Has everybody had a chance to go into the teamwork site? I know Brandy had set you up as users for your new employee orientation and been encouraging everybody to go in and at least familiarize yourself a little bit with it. So hopefully, has everybody been able to log into teamwork? If you haven't, raise your hand.
Got a yes in the chat.
Excellent. So I've gone through this. And like Brandy said during the training earlier, you can always reach out to us too. For instance, I don't think Jesse Siegel or Bonnie are on the call today, but I have done a one-on-one Teams chat with, well, two-on-one really. So there's with both of them and myself, we've spent about an hour on a Teams call just going through their projects. So I'm happy to do that with folks. I know it can be a little bit cumbersome. Right now I'm going to show you how it would look for you because it looks really different for us on the engineering side of things. So I'm going to impersonate Jesse. Don't tell him. So when you open it up, there's a couple things I wanted to point out. Over here on the left are some icons. If you go to your home page, which is this little house, it's kind of a standard icon, it will show you a list of your projects in the engineering services section. So in Jesse's case, there's 4 projects that he's working on here. And if you look just kind of to familiarize yourself with it, it's set up so that you've got 56 is the number for the county. Then we have the county name. And then there's a couple different ways that these numbers afterwards will be. If it starts with the year, it hasn't been contracted yet. So you can also see down here, there's a note that says it's not contracted. If it has the contract number, then you know it has been contracted. So that gives you some information right off the bat on the naming. And then the name of the cooperators usually after that, as well as maybe the cost share program. And then down here, there's sometimes some tags. This is one that Sam Bingham's worked on, so the SB design. Sometimes they'll be down here what the practice is. This writing right below it is just the most recent project update. Let's look at this one. So when you open up the project, you're going to see across the top a list of tabs. I wish I could figure out a way to get some of the ones that aren't necessarily useful off of here, but the ones that you're really going to want to look at, there's a couple places. So on this list, it will show what the tasks are. And for most engineering projects, there's initial site visit. So in this case, you can see this is crossed through, the data collection's already been done. So initial contact is when the engineer reaches out to you. Then we come set up a site visit, so the site evaluation. And when the tasks are done, they get checked off. So then there's a site survey that gets done, and it shows you the person who is assigned each one of those tasks. And there are things that you'll have to check off to let us know that it's time for us to do things. So for instance, once the preliminary design's done, we'll send it to you to talk to the cooperator about and see if they're on board, if the game of telephone that we're playing worked and we got on paper what the cooperator wanted on their farm. And then once you talk to them and they say, yeah, that's what I had in mind, or no, go back to the drawing board. Either way, you let us know. So you can send, there's a couple ways you can do that. You can put a comment in here under the task, or you can send a message. So up here, we do ask that you try and send most of your messages, if not all of them, through Teamwork so that we can keep track of what's happening on the project. Because sometimes there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of changes, and this way we can all make sure we're on the same page. So once the preliminary design gets sent to you, then you would let us know that they've approved the preliminary design, which is usually about a 60% complete. And that's when we know that we can start working on the final design. Once the final design is complete, we'll send it to you with a JAA or design approval letter. That means that you can go ahead and get started. Let the cooperator know that we need to do a pre-construction meeting to go over the plans with them. We like to have the contractor there if at all possible, the cooperator, district staff, and the engineer. Usually I'll have the surveyor come with me as well so that they know what's going on. I think it's just good practice. So when you let us know that this construction, they're ready to go to construction, we'll come out and do the pre-construction meeting. We usually try to do the site layout and staking at the same time as that meeting. That way we all can walk through what's happening and where. And then if you need help during construction or need us to come out and visit, you can just let us know through a message in Teamwork. And then when it's complete, you have to let us know that it's complete so we can come out and do an as-built survey. And at that time, we would do a construction certification and send out a letter for request for payment, which I know that's a lot of information, but this is just giving you an idea of kind of what the processes are. And this is all under that list. So if you go under your list in your projects, you'll see all of these laid out, and they are dependent on the one in front of it. So you don't have to get too lost in the weeds on that right now. The dashboard, you'll have usually the most recent update that we'll try and put when things change in the project, we'll put an update on the dashboard. For people, we put a lot of people on here. Sometimes the wrong people, like Duplin probably doesn't need to be on this one, but we'll keep the cost share specialists on here, the environmental services folks, Brian Evans, who Brandy talked about earlier, engineering staff. So there's a lot of people on each one of these projects. Not all of them will be involved, but they need to be able to see the project for reporting and things like that. So that's the list of the folks that have access to this project on Teamwork. The messages, so this is where you can see, you can add a message and send emails through here. And this just helps us keep track of what's going on, what any changes, and then any files associated with that project should be in this as well. So your final design, your preliminary design, your site assessment, the technical assistance requests that you sent in, we uploaded up here so that that's also, we know, what you needed and when. We put the map in that you put in for the technical assistance request. And then if there's any comments, a lot of times the comments will go into each one of the tasks so that if when those were done. I think that's really, that's a lot. It seems like a lot of information, but really the most important thing for you guys is just to know, make sure you can get in here and make sure that you send your messages through Teamwork so that we can keep track of what's going on. And then also the tasks in your list so that you know to notify us. And if you forget and you just send us a message in here, we can update the task list too. That's a lot to keep track of, and we are here to help. In my opinion, we work for the districts. If we don't have anything to do if you don't need us. So we are here for you, and you're welcome to contact us. You can email, call, any questions. I'm happy to go through something like this, individually if you need to, as you get familiar with it, because it definitely is, it can be a little bit of a learning curve. And I know you've got a lot to learn already. So this is just kind of an overview. We don't expect you to be expert users right now. Rachel, can you think of anything else we need to add on that?
Can you pull that back up just for a second?
Sure.
Share. Yeah. So the one thing I was going to say, if you go click your home button and click my work. So if you're curious about which exactly tasks are assigned to you, this is how that shows up as your tasks only. Obviously, they're associated with different projects, and like for example, with Brandy's program, there's her phases of her new employee orientation. So one of the things that I think is really helpful for districts, for us as engineers, if we open this up, it's like blows your mind, because we have probably 100 tasks in this list versus what you might have. And so I think that might be helpful for folks. And then also, Star, will you click the activity? So this just shows what if the most recent thing that happened also might be helpful. And then if you look at the inbox too, Star, that should include any messages that have come through to you. So it's almost like an email inbox. So I wanted to just kind of point that out and just let you know that those things are also available. Looks like there's some filters turned on there. Maybe click on that, the blue box with the 3 in it. So if you click on it so they can see what the filters look like. So this will allow you to filter out, like if there's messages for a specific project or anything like that, you can also do that there. So there's some good, especially when you have just a few projects like these kinds of layouts can be helpful and help you kind of drill down in case you might have missed something. You should also receive notifications in your email that you've received a teamwork message. So I did want to let you know that as well. Star, will you click on the bell, if you will, at the bottom? So that's not where the settings are for that. I'm sorry. I apologize. There's some settings that where you can change how you get the notifications. I actually think that's on the JS. Like if you click on your initials in the little yellow button, you can edit your edit my details, and you can make sure that your notifications are turned on. I think that's under preferences. Yes, so this in here you can make sure that you have your notifications turned on so that when something like a task is completed, or if something, you just want to make sure these are on for the specific things you want. Some people do like a daily project report email. You don't have to do that. You can turn that off, but there are some different ways that you can make sure that you are receiving the notifications.
I'm
So I
learning
did.
stuff right now. I'm so glad. I'm going to turn off that project report email. That thing drives me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are just some places where some of the really, because I find a lot of times if we're not careful about those notifications, if we leave them all on, then we tend to ignore them. And so I think if you're really careful about which ones you turn on, so that when you receive something, it's really an important thing for you to look at. So that's why I wanted to point that out, because I don't want it to seem like you're just getting so much information, because you don't need a daily project report email. Likely that's overkill, because we may not be working on your project every single day. So I did want to point that out. So that was really the only other thing, unless somebody had very specific questions.
I don't see any questions in the chat. Does anyone have any questions? You can raise your hand. You can come off mute.
I'm not sure if this is the time to ask this, but I have like a
Sure.
kind of a specific question.
Go for it, Sarah.
I'm looking at my dashboard on Teamwork, and I see that one of my assigned tasks is site notification of contract. I'm not quite sure what that is, what that entails.
Let me take a look at that, Sarah. That might be from an old template. If it is some of those ones that are for like a preliminary evaluation, sometimes those particular ones are a little bit different template, because what we're looking at is, can you tell me which specifically project you're looking at, and I'll pull it up?
Yes, it is for Sarah Noah, and it's 57 2026 801
Okay.
AgRap.
Okay. So I think likely, if this was one, and obviously I don't know anything about this particular project, but sometimes we receive these requests for technical assistance before it's determined that the project is going to become an actual cost share program contract. And so what we try to do, obviously, if we're doing a site assessment, doing a site evaluation, something where we're giving you some feedback to help you determine if it's going to be a contract, and you tell us, okay, I'm going to go back to the landowner and look at my budget for my cost share program and make sure that I've got the funds I need and that the landowner wants to proceed. So what that means is, in this case, obviously there's been a contract created, because there is a contract number in the title, but we do that so that we will be aware that the project is no longer just a preliminary site assessment. It is actually going to be a contract. So we will sometimes assign those types, and those are not standard in our template. That is just something we do when we're doing something that's like a preliminary site assessment that we believe will become a contract, but at that point it's not. So that's just something that helps us so that we are not focusing our work on a project that is likely not to proceed. We have learned over the years that sometimes whenever we meet with the districts and we look at something for preliminary site assessment, sometimes those don't go anywhere. And if we're still working on it, believing that it is continuing, this just kind of helps alleviate that, where we know for sure this is absolutely moving forward. And so that's what that is.
Great. Thank you. That makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Sarah. Great question. Anybody else have a question? I did also want to know, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but one of my favorite applications about using a project management software like Teamwork. So like say, for example, Matthew's working on an engineering project and he sends somebody a question through Teamwork and you're out in the field and you realize Matthew could probably use the information sooner than later and you know the information, but maybe you don't have time to log into Teamwork. Should be able to actually just click reply to the email notification that was sent through Teamwork, and it will reply back to Matthew, showing him that you responded, and it will also log the conversation in Teamwork as well. So it's kind of a great quick way that you don't have to log all the way back into the platform to respond to a notification email in the Teamwork platform. You just hit the reply button and it automatically does the work for you and logs it. So I do think that that's such a cool functionality, especially when you need to track those conversations because they're important. So
yes. Yeah. And that is a good point, Brandy, that, replying to the email that comes from Teamwork automatically, keeps that in that conversation within the program. There is also, and we didn't mention this, but there is also a mobile app for Teamwork. And so one of the things that when I'm in the field, if I have something specific that I'm trying to look at, I can look directly at it through my Teamwork app on my phone. So that is also another tool that you can use. It can be a little bit cumbersome, obviously, because it's very small and trying to see things on small screens, but I do use it. Especially if someone asks me a question, for example, if I'm on one project, but they ask me a question about another one, I have the ability to, pull that up just right there in the field. So I do like that capability as well.
that's great information. Thank you for sharing that. I'll see if I can't find that the link to that app and I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did any other questions about Teamwork? And just quick question also while folks are thinking about questions. Did we have an activity to run through any Teamwork stuff?
I think, and Star, correct me if I'm wrong, we wanted to make sure, we wanted everyone to pull up their Teamwork and very specifically go to one of the projects that they've been assigned and go through the different things. We weren't, it's, because we want it to be individual for them to pull up their own Teamwork, we obviously are not going to do that on the screen, but and then that'll give us the opportunity to make sure, number one, everybody's got this, that they are looking at what we think they are looking at and can ask us questions specifically for that. So very informal activity, just because it's, it's kind of hard when there's so many people to really focus in on one particular activity. So, and Star, is that, did I say that appropriately?
Okay, perfect. All right, so that's what we're going to do, folks. We have some time. If you have any questions, you can come off mute, raise your hand, put in the chat, same as always. But why don't you guys go ahead and log in, kind of putz around, see if you have any questions for the engineering team about the Teamwork platform. If you are an administrator or educator, you for sure will not see any engineering projects. But all of you at the very least should see a new employee onboarding. And that's kind of a really informal practice thing. I kind of use it for tracking, but you're welcome to putz around and do whatever in there. It's not going to mess anything up. The engineering projects are for sure a lot more sensitive to the notifications and the process system, right? But if you needed to try any functionality or wanted anything weird, you could play around with the new employee project as much as you would like to. It won't mess anything up.
So I would suggest as part of your activity is that you go into one of your projects and you do two things. One, send a message. Just in the message, just say, I'm a new employee. I'm just verifying that you can receive my message, and whoever the engineer is on your project will respond, and just so, and they may not respond immediately. Like I said, we've got some new folks, so or some folks that aren't here, so that kind of thing. But then the other thing is maybe go into a specific task and write a comment on that task, and you can just say that you're testing and to make sure that your comments go through so that you can see what that looks like. That might be two really good things. And the engineering folks, if you get those messages, please respond so they know that it's working.
Sarah already sent me a message.
Great.
I know.
Yes. All right.
Thanks, Sarah.
I'm learning.
Yeah, so you guys, we have some time for this. So, we'll kind of check in. Maybe we'll give you 5 or so minutes to start, and we can give you more time if you need it. But why don't you guys go ahead and start doing that? And again, if you have any questions, this is a great time to ask it. But yeah, go ahead and start working, sending those messages, put in some comments. And yeah, let's kind of familiarize ourselves with teamwork. So we'll check back in 5 minutes unless any questions pop up. All right, folks, just checking in. How are we doing? Do you guys want to message in the chat? Like, are you guys like putzing around? How's things going? Do you have any questions about teamwork? Because I think we're kind of rounding the corner on this activity. So just wanted to, check in.
Can I, Star,
Yeah.
can you, do you still have your impersonation pulled up, Star? Oh, you're muted. I'm sorry.
I do not, but do you need me to
Okay.
do that?
No, it's okay. I will. I can do it real quick. Since I just did Marika, is that the correct pronunciation? I want to make sure I'm good.
Yes, that's me.
Okay. So I was just going to impersonate you since I have it. Oh, but you don't have any. Okay. Wait, let me try again. Let me try someone else. You don't have any of the engineering ones. Go ahead.
I have a quick question. I'm looking at the dashboard of the projects that I have, and one of them, it doesn't have all of the BMPs listed, and I'm just wondering if that matters or whether I should add in or whether that's something that gets added in by the engineer, maybe if
Okay.
when we get the plan.
Let's look at it together. Can you tell me which project it is?
Louis Zimmerman.
Okay, and so it's got the water storage collection.
Yeah, and it'll also be I guess it'll be high use area and exclusion fencing.
Okay.
And Sarah, a lot of times we don't put, I mean, the tags for that are not one of the super high priority things that we put in there. So if it's in the contract, it should be fine. But yeah, a lot of times those tags, that's kind of, there's so many things that we add in that's kind of on the lower end of the priorities for getting all these set up. But yeah,
well, and I will comment that we do report based on BMP on some of this. So we do try to make sure that, by the time the design is done, that we have the appropriate BMPs tagged. But, in the beginning, a lot of times, especially if we're getting a TA request, it only usually lists one BMP. So when we set these up, we're basing it on that initial TA request. And so as time goes on and we identify that there are additional BMPs, then that we should be updating that as we go. But sometimes, and the other piece of that is if we are not designing the BMP, we don't generally include it in that tag list. For example, exclusion fencing is not something that we typically provide JAA for. Doesn't mean we can't. We just don't generally provide that. It's usually provided by the district or a neighboring district or something like that. So that would be something that would be not necessarily listed in the tags. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. I didn't know how important that was, but that all makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? So I did want to point out, we do try to make sure that our final designs and preliminary designs show up in your files tab. So if you have something that's about to go to construction and you don't see those files in the files tab, and the way they get there is either being attached to a message or uploaded directly, please reach out and just ask for them to be added to the project so you have access to them there. So any preliminary design that has been approved, any final designs, those kinds of things should be available in the files for a project that is ready for construction. That's all I wanted to say. Unless Star had anything further on that particular subject.
All right, friends, do y'all have any questions, comments, concerns? Awesome. Thank you, Leah. Thanks, Dustin, Lauren. Appreciate you guys putting things in the chat and checking in with us. Perfect. All right. Well, I think what we're going to do now is take one more brief break. Maybe we'll take about 3 minutes or so. So we'll come back around 11. I'll give you till 11. Oh, did I lose you guys? Sorry. I think my Wi-Fi dipped out briefly. We'll say 11:29. Why don't we come back for the panel? So let's do a little quick brief break and then we will circle back and yeah. So I'll see you guys in a few minutes.